Let us continue with the fracking issue because I'm becoming more concerned, as are others, that the only way we're going to be able to stop this is through the court system.
Well, debatably, we've got other things in mind,
yeah.
But that might involve courts ultimately as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's no. Let's get one thing clear. I mean, there's nothing going on at the moment in the UK.
Nor will there be as long as gas is
Yeah.
below $30 a barrel. So.
Now, I think that's giving some campaigners a little bit of artificial hope that maybe we're winning the battle. I mean, we've seen iGas pull out of Cheshire and stuff like that. So yeah, we are seeing some small battles won, but I think the war is almost in abeyance because of the artificial situation created by the oil and gas prices.
Right.
But in the meantime, we've got key elections in Wales, for example, and all work will continue.
So the war is longer. The battle may be won, but it's a long war.
Absolutely. And what will signify the end of the war from our point of view, especially here in Wales, will be successfully getting a legal ban on, as has happened in many other parts of the world, getting a ban in place. Now, the biggest obstacle to that at the moment is that all the indications are that any devolution settlement, giving greater powers to Wales, it might well give Welsh government power over things like fracking decisions and so on. But the small print in that at the moment is that Westminster retains the right of veto on anything that Wales does. So it's effectively a step backwards rather than a step forward, really.
Yeah.
Now that's only in the draft, so there's a lot of work going on to try and get appropriate amendments to that before it becomes law.
Yeah, that Wales bill is a bit of a car crash. But it's, I mean, if you look at part of the way I look at this is that you're now beginning to see a lot of the medical evidence being firmed up about the impact of methane and water and the different things that have happened in the States. You're starting to see,
which they use in the process.
And also the disposal of the stuff that comes back up.
Right.
Before, I mean, they pump a bunch of chemicals down and explode them, but then it comes back up. It has to be drained. It has to be stored. You just had, not related to fracking, but a coal ash pit settlement where the North Carolina governor, who used to work for Duke Energy, had basically given them a $100,000 slap on the hand and said, "Don't do it again." Well, that fine has now been raised to, I believe, $36 million US.
From 100,000
to 36. So people are starting to take the issue seriously, but you still have all these wellheads that were drilled in Pennsylvania that are leaking methane gas. You had that horrific methane gas leakage in California that basically shut down 2 cities for long, and they finally got it capped last week. But it's not fully capped. It's a temporary solution, and it's not going to stop them from going back in there and taking more out. But I mean, people were being sickened, schools were closed, you had all sorts of issues around it. So I'm hoping that the weight of evidence that continues to grow compared to what we had for evidence 4 years ago is going to be enough to finally begin to get people to pay attention, because I would say probably 50% of the population doesn't know, doesn't care at this point. And that's down from 80%. So you're now at a place where people are beginning to go, yeah, wait a minute, I'm not so sure I want that in my backyard or in my...
That comes down to information, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's my big thing. You can understand that in terms of the way it was announced, whether it's right or wrong. Announcing a major thing like this in the recess is wrong. And it just reminds me, for example, in Wales, Edwina Hart announced the black route for the M4 around the top of Newport, the south of Newport, on a Friday afternoon.
Well, let's take out the trash there.
I mean, some media aren't around, stuff like that. And just it's effectively snuck out, isn't it?
Well, you bury news you don't want to have go out on a Friday afternoon.
Exactly.
Because nobody reads, well, they read the Saturday papers here, but probably nobody would be around to write it.
Yeah, but you can't pin these people down. You know, you need journalists to sort of ask, what is this all about? You know, they've all gone home.
Nobody pins anybody down in this country. That's part of the problem, except for the eye.
Yeah, I do. It cause trouble.
So this is also why I tied it in with the Jeremy Hunt thing earlier. You know, it's symptomatic of the attitude that they know they can't get what they want through local democracy and negotiation and so on. So you know they're going to find ways and means to sort of give their corporate sponsors what they want.
Well, that worries me. I mean, that whole thing of things that they perceive as being controversial, difficult, or come out on a Friday on a recess or whatever. You know, that really worries me.
You had something you wanted to talk about, Phil, regarding this before break.
That was it.
Okay, good.
I'm elbow my way.
I'm on top of it. So, what's the future for this, from your perspective, Andy?
Well, I'm not too sure, to be honest. I mean, I think we're entering a different phase of the whole thing. Yeah. I think we've reached a point where I don't think there's 50% of the country that don't know what fracking is. I think virtually everybody's got a vague awareness now of what the word means and so on. Every single place where applications have gone in, locals have risen up.
Yes.
And I think what's the big concern from the overall campaign point of view now is that this way of taking the decisions out of the local authorities makes it difficult for us because we can't now rely just on local groups working on a local decision and stuff like that. We've got to the point now where that's nearly always successful. Even in Wales, we've had Newport Tal, which declare themselves wanting to be frack-free. Swansea are about to do the same, we hope. By the Welsh Assembly, the whole of Wales will be declaring itself wanting to be frack-free. We sincerely hope. Even Ceredigion, that's not even threatened by it, has rather stamped that attitude as well.
Yeah, so what will the effect of that be? I mean, beyond being a symbolic.
It's purely symbolic at the
Okay.
Especially if they take the powers to make the decisions elsewhere.
Because it reminds you a bit of that in the early 80s when local authorities declared themselves nuclear free.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same thing. In practice, if those decisions are being taken elsewhere, then it is a symbolic thing. But
important symbolism.
Absolutely, because it gives us the momentum to take the campaign to that higher level with some sort of credibility, because there isn't a single local area that has welcomed this industry, despite all the attempts to sort of blackmail them with saying community funds for part of the royalties, blah 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 blah. People aren't buying that. They recognise that that they're trying to be bought off because there are genuine concerns about this thing.
Well, again, you have the history of what's happened in the USA, where oil companies came in and promised all these landowners all these great contracts, but then literally after the first year, they basically said this is a non-performing asset. There's no more money to be made out of it. It just fizzled away. So they're all upset and ill and everything else.